Hi everyone, welcome back to this week's Taking It Home devotional. I'm Caroline Coulter, and I'm the Children's Director here at First Church. And today I want to talk about one of my favorite things, plants. I seriously love plants. Half of my Christmas gifts ended up being plant-related. I got an indoor greenhouse, some new seeds. Those are things that are super exciting to me. In fact, right now in my kitchen, I have a small inflatable pool filled with soil, and I'm growing some flowers. Now, I've been super excited about these flowers to grow. I've been giving them water, making sure they have enough sun and food, and I've been really excited to see where they'll go. But I've failed to realize some of the ways that they've been dying. They've been too close to each other, they've been choking each other out, and that reminded me of the parable that we're going to talk about today, which is seriously one of my favorites. It's the parable of the sower. So before we jump in and look at the things that help us to grow, we're also going to talk about the things that might get in the way of our growth. So let me read this for you. From Matthew 13, verses 1 through 9. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Continuing in Matthew 13 to verses 18 through 23, listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the world, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but that worries of life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop, yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. So I want to go back through and break down the different seeds that we're talking about, the first of which being the seed sown along the path. And so Jesus says in here that the parable, this part of it means that the seed is planted, that something in us is either planted by someone else or when we're at church and we hear something, but we don't quite understand it. And the devil can really come in and take that away very quickly. So if we hear something that inspires us, or if we find a word that we don't understand, there are definitely ways the devil can get in and kind of push that to the side. Be like, that doesn't make any sense, so why focus on it? And that's a really hard thing because that seed could grow and produce 30-fold, like it says, but the devil does come and take that away. I think it's interesting that it talks about birds as well. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of a magpie, but there are birds that will come and attack humans. I think it's in Australia. But there's this really funny video that I've seen of this mechanism that protects people from these birds that will come and swoop down, and this bird is just picking away at this mechanism one by one, and it really makes me think of that, how the devil can come and pick at these little things and can weaken our faith. The second seed that I want to talk about is the one that falls on rocky ground. This one does spring up really quickly, but it scorches when the sun comes up. And that is a comparison to when we hear things that inspire us about the word and we grasp it joyfully and we are in the season where we're like, yes, Lord, I understand and I want this. But then when a season of hardship comes, it's really easy to lose that because our roots have not grown deep. Those roots for me are rooted in this faithfulness or the fruits of the Spirit that talk about patience and kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, these things that help us stay rooted in our faith. But if we don't have those roots, if we don't have that deep understanding of our faith, it's really easy for when something comes along and it's hard for us that we can turn away from God and say, why would you ever let that happen? So that's what that seed is. And then another one of the seeds is thrown into a thorny patch. And it grows, but it is eventually choked out. And what I think is interesting in Matthew 13 is that this seed is taken over by the worries of life and the deceitfulness of wealth. That our worries and our anxieties can turn us away from the faith, when really, when we have those seasons, we should turn towards it and hold on to it all the more. But those things can wear us out and eventually choke out that life of faith that we live. Or even the deceitfulness of wealth, that we preoccupy our minds with that, if we had more money, we would be happier. And yes, I think sometimes money can feel like it can buy that happiness, but only for a short amount of time. So it grows for a short amount of time, but it eventually is choked out. And so that seed doesn't grow either. The final seed is the only one that does grow. It is planted and it has firm roots, and it is able to then grow, and it says producing 160 or 30 times what was sown. When we think of ourselves as that seed, it's really encouraging to know, if I pour into my faith and I turn away from the worries of life and I turn away from what the devil tempts me with, that I can grow, and eventually you can plant seeds elsewhere. You can give what you have learned and impact others with your faith, with those deep roots. And I think that is something that is really encouraging. And so we can grow. But we've all probably been one of these seeds, or maybe multiple of these seeds at one point of our lives. And as we live in this secular world, we're going to have to prepare for these times. What I failed to do with the plants in my pool is I failed to look for the things that was going to keep them from thriving. Once I had a better idea of what was, I can prepare for that. And so I think this parable is something we should all take notes from, is that we are going to have those different seasons of our lives, but we can prepare for them by being deeply rooted in the Word. And so we can prepare by going to church, by having conversations, by watching devotionals like this one. And I would love to hear about other ways that you continue to grow in your faith. Now, Pastor David said this weekend and gave his encouragement to live large. And we know that we are in a secular world, but that we can face these challenges with determination, and with the Holy Spirit's help, we can face these challenges. And I think that's one thing that I really want to leave you with today, is to say, okay, Lord, what is the seed that you are planting in me right now? And how are you going to transform me through that? Because God doesn't take these transformations step by step. A lot of times it's a huge transformation. And so maybe for you, it's something that you are going to ask for the Lord to transform your patience. I know that's one for me. Or maybe it's your faithfulness. But especially, I think we can all pray together that how we feel about generosity, this thing that we're talking about for the next couple of weeks, Lord, transform our hearts for how we see generosity played out within our life or within the church or our community. And God and the Holy Spirit will take it from there. But we have to humble ourselves to be able to live large. We have to say, Lord, take this thing, take this seed, and transform it in me so that we can continue to bless others. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time on our Taking It Home devotional.